a lot of people, if you ask Henry Ford, who Henry Ford was, they'll say, oh, he was the guy that invented the car. And he didn't. He did not invent the car. Somebody else invented the car. But what Henry Ford figured out how to do was how to make a car affordable so that everybody could buy one. Some people will say, oh, he was the one that invented the assembly line. Okay, before that, the idea was that you would get people together and you would bring materials in, and these people would build an entire car at once, which means each worker had to be trained on how to build an entire car, and you had to bring in parts from everywhere. And it was a very inefficient way of doing it. Somebody else came up with the idea of an assembly line, but Henry Ford realized, oh, I can do this not just for small, simple things, but I can also do this for something as large and complicated as an automobile. And so he built his factory so that you had parts go in one end, and you had an assembly line, and you had highly skilled workers who were trained on specific tasks. They were specializing now. And at the other end of the factory came finished automobiles. And yes, that's true. The assembly line was a huge revolution. But the thing to me that Henry Ford really did was he changed the industry. He changed the way we think about work. He normalized the 8-hour workday. Okay, no more of these 10, 12, 14-hour shifts, just 8 hours. Because he knew that was not a linear relationship between the effort that you put in and the results that you get out. Because we get tired if we've been working too long, if we've been pushing too hard. We start making mistakes. Okay, mistakes mean that we get injured. And now if you have this highly specialized worker who can't work because they're injured, you have to bring somebody else in to replace them, and they're not as specialized. They don't know the job, and so you're going to slow down. It's going to increase your costs because you have to, because if you make a mistake and drill a part in the wrong place, well, that part's useless anymore. You have to throw it out. You have to use 2 parts now to build the car. That increases your costs. Personally, this means that you're just working harder than you need to be in order to get the results that you're after. And you get to a point where you start creating anti-work. You start actually producing, you start getting negative results over time. That line that goes up, my video's mirrored, the line that starts going up starts to go back down. And the more hours that you put in, you actually start getting worse off. Okay, there have been a lot of studies done trying to find that sweet spot in the middle, where we where we peak. What is the maximum output that we can get in a week, in a day? This is kind of a week view that I've drawn. So that line is somewhere right around the 45-hour mark. Now, it depends on what your industry is, what your job is, but on average, it's about 45 hours. Okay, if you have a 40-hour job, and you put in an hour of overtime, you're getting a little bit more work done. But Henry Ford realized that the incremental gain that he was receiving was not much. I mean, look at how shallow that curve is. You're getting more at 9 hours, but just a little bit more than what you were getting at 8 hours. And so it was actually more useful to him to be able to offer to his employees just an 8-hour day. Come work for me. You're going to have 8 hours. It's just an 8-hour shift. You can go home, be with your family, do other things, and I'm going to give you the weekends off. And he was a heretic. People thought you're going to fail. You're never going to succeed. But he understood what the long term was. He knew that if he could slow down and have his employees work at a more sustainable pace, it was going to be better for him in the long run. It was going to be better for them in the long run. Okay, there was no. What was good for his employees was good for him. Their interests were aligned. And this was revolutionary thinking at the time. Everyone told him he was going to fail.